Hey friends, this is Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead, and this is Home Economics Knitting 102 Purling. Okay, I've gone ahead and cast on 10 stitches and knitted several rows because you need to see that purling is just reverse knitting. You would get this same stitch if all you did was purl every row. Purling is reverse knitting in order to create a pattern, okay? So instead of going through the back of the needle for knitting, we're going to go through the front. And we're going to keep the yarn in front of us instead of behind. And we're going to pull that loop around there and pull it off. And continue on with the next stitch. In through the front with the needle in front. Slip it off. I hope my cell phone is in the correct position for you to properly see this. When you purl, you're more often than not asked to combine it with knitting. See what's happening here? So now I'm going to knit a row. This is called the stocking stitch, which is knit a row, purl a row. Because if I, like I said, if I just purled a row, purled a row, purled a row, all you would see is a regular garter stitch, which is what this is called. It's called, straight knitting is called garter stitch. And we're knitting. Oops, my yarn out of the way here. And now we're going to purl. Now it's going to look like you're knitting on the back side, but it's just a tighter weave. Purl. And now we knit a row. And see, it's just backwards knitting to create a different textured effect. So let's knit this row. And we'll purl one more, showing vividly the stocking stitch. And then I'm going to show you some ribbing techniques. Okay. All right. See, this is the right side of your work facing. That's what they mean, because when you go here, it still looks like knitting. That's the effect. So we would call this the right side of work facing. Right side of the work facing, we are now at the knit row. If we were going to make the next row, it would be a knit row. However, I'm going to show you now. Now, I've had people tell me that's not garter stitch. They would be wrong. This is garter stitch. This is stocking stitch, which is knit a row, purl a row. And now I'm going to show you what some people confuse with garter stitch is just plain ribbing. So we are going to knit one, bring the yarn forward, and purl one. And we're going to continue that across. Knit one, purl one. Knit one, purl one. knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Now, because I have put an even number of stitches here, we can repeat this pattern again. If there were 11 stitches, I would probably have to, if there were an odd number of stitches, I would have to start off with a purl stitch, but I have even stitches. So we're just going to, again, repeat the process. Knit 1, purl 1, purl 1. And pretty soon, as we do our knit 1, purl 1 pattern, you're going to see a ribbing effect take place. Some people confuse this with as a garter stitch because it is most often used when knitting socks, and this is the garter part of the sock. Knit and purl. But it's not a garter stitch, folks. I shouldn't even say it. Okay. Purl 1. Now this is why, because sometimes you're knitting with an odd number of stitches, and patterns will tell you knit one way for the first row and then one way for the second row, and then just to repeat those 2 rows. It is because that they have an odd number of stitches for that project. But for now, it's easier to show you with an even number of stitches. And as you can see, it gives a ribbing effect. So we have the garter stitch, the stocking stitch, and single ribbing. Okay? Now we're going to do double ribbing. You can do triple ribbing, which is knit 3, purl 3, but you have to make sure that the stitches you're working with are divisible by 3. Okay? So it's just simple math. So now I'm going to show you a double rib. And that is knit 2, purl 2. Oops, I almost made a mistake, didn't I? Knit 2, purl 2. No, I was right. Oh, it's bird o'clock. Now, because we have divided it in 2, we have changed the pattern. So we're going to go back across, because once 10 is divided by 2, it's no longer even stitches because we have divided it by 2. So now we have to go back across the second row as purl 2, knit 2. If there had been 12 stitches on the needle, this would have worked better. But this is all about learning to knit and purl, right? Purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. Turn it around, and you can begin to see how easy it is just to go, oh, these 2 are knit. So this row, because we ended in 2 purl stitches, we're beginning in 2 knit stitches. And that is only because the number of the needles. It's a math thing. You know you're purling when the yarn's in front like this. It's when you knit, it's in the back. So here is garter stitch, stocking stitch, single ribbing, double ribbing. This is the Miss Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead with Knitting 102, Learning to Purl. Take care, God bless.